Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, first I want to thank Chairman Putney and the members of Appropriations and the Appropriations staff who yesterday were kind enough to spend some time with the House Democratic Caucus and walk us through the budget and answer some of our questions. You know, this is a challenging year and everyone's working very hard to try and get this right. And so it's important, I think, that before we just come out, you know, guns a-blazing, criticizing something, we need to understand what we're looking at. I just wanted to take this opportunity to raise an issue about something that I found in there that I think is of particular concern. And that is the proposal to combine the at-risk add-on, the Virginia Preschool Initiative, and early reading intervention programs into a block grant. You know, those are programs that are currently funded by the lottery, and the proposal in the budget would combine these into a block grant. We're putting some other things into the lottery, and by doing that, we're lessening the overall size of the pie, so to speak, for that block grant. The block grant piece of it, I don't think is necessarily a bad idea because the local governments, the school boards have asked for more flexibility. They've said if you're going to cut, then at least give us some flexibility. So that piece of it, you know, I'm open-minded on. The problem and the piece that is, I think, a real concern, and it should be a concern to a lot of people on this floor, is that there's a policy change embedded in that proposal that would effectively redistribute money from localities that have a lot of poor and at-risk children to other localities with children who aren't so poor. And this is something I wanted to bring to your attention, and let me explain. Currently, the lottery money funding these three programs is distributed, depending on the program, it's distributed based on the proportion of at-risk and poor kids or kids who are at the very bottom of performance in terms of test scores. And of course, there's a high correlation between low test scores and a child being poor or at risk. If we adopt the policy proposal contained in this budget, then it means that if your area has a high number of poor and at-risk students, the redistribution in this new policy will take money away from your schools and give it to other places that don't need it. And let me give you some numbers. First, let's look at some localities with higher numbers of poor students. If you look at Danville, which has 73% free and reduced lunch, Danville loses $1.9 million under this proposal. Petersburg, with 77% free and reduced lunch, loses $1.3 million. Roanoke, with 68% free and reduced lunch, loses $2.4 million. Now let's look at some localities with lower numbers of poor students. Now, Chesterfield has 27% free and reduced lunch. They gain $4.3 million. Hanover, with 17% free and reduced lunch, gains $1.9 million. Loudon, with just 14% free and reduced lunch, gains $4.2 million. And Stafford, Mr. Speaker, with 21% free and reduced lunch, gains $3.1 million. You know, again, using the block grant approach to give localities some flexibility may make some sense, but these programs and these particular funds are intended to help poor and at-risk kids. So I would urge the members of Appropriations and our budget conferees to revisit how these block grants are distributed, you know, especially when we're cutting so many other safety net services. I don't think we can afford a policy change that amounts to taking money from poor kids and giving it to kids who aren't so poor. Thank you.